Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back with Sheldon. Gonna do a little market update, end of Q1, talk about Q2, where we think things are going, lots of stimulus, bunch of things to talk about. But first things first, Sheldon, how are you?
I'm great. You got the sun shining behind me. It's not so warm, but it's great to be alive. How are you?
Yeah, good. I mean, we're in this weird part, obviously, Canada spring, where is it winter? Is it summer? One week it's 20, the next week it's 2. Who knows? But things are good. Sun is shining, as you say. But market stuff. Look, I mean, to hop into it, where do you like things ended? Had a little slowdown in March. Seems like General Ventures, at least. Where do you think things are going? I mean, what's your general feeling of the markets?
Well, markets go up and they go down, and markets are driven by fear and greed, and there was a little bit of exuberance in February or early February. We've had a correction, people concerned about the yield curve and so forth. But now everything is stable, and my view is the shakeout's over. And even though your favorite stocks may not be trading as much, because that's typically the little bottom of a mini correction cycle, I believe it's a tremendous entry point. And all these spaces that were, maybe overinvested, a bit of overvaluation, and now they've settled down, and I think I'm extremely optimistic. The big markets are very, very healthily now ready, pointing north again, making new highs in the U.S. So big spending bills, infrastructure. Obviously, it's reignited the gold trade in terms of the commodity. So more interest in the precious metal stocks. Digital assets, tremendous. I really I'm very favorable about how things look.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, here, maybe we pick a few industries. Obviously tech came back a little bit, because of these kind of yield curves, if that's what we want to talk about. What's your feeling on general tech? Is it a slowdown or great? This was a good sell off pointing north now. What's your feeling, obviously?
Well, it's every deal, if you will. You can't generalizing the word tech. Is yes, rising tides rise all ships, but I think there are certain areas that are more interesting than other areas. There are certain areas that I think may be overvalued still, and that happens. So markets tend, when they shake out, to really separate the real from the not so real. But we're big believers in disruptive tech. We just announced today, I think our tech portfolio moved up into the 50s now of number of companies that we own at ThreeD. So that is an area of focus for us. Disruptive technology, and the number of opportunities are just tremendous, better than I've ever seen.
Wow. Incredible update. Curious, I know you're big kind of guys getting into psychedelic companies, at least ones that are pursuing science. We'd love to chat about that industry. Obviously, a big slowdown kind of the last month. A lot of people asking questions. MindMed was down 35% or something. Is now a great entry point? Do you think there's some more pullbacks to happen, or what's your feeling?
Well, it's an area that's most of the main companies are all deep science. And when you have deep science, you don't have, like in some other areas, a press release every month or lots of news that sort of drives it. It's science is driven by milestones. And so I think it's a space that, could go quiet for a while, and then there may be a milestone that triggers one company and may trigger other companies. I've always felt that it's more related to biotech than certainly to cannabis. But on the other hand, the cannabis news of legalization in the U.S., New York is massive market, sort of has ignited that. reignited sort of the space there. It's had a tremendous year, all those companies. And the more the scientific evidence now coming out on the positive effects of CBDs on your health and Alzheimer's and many different diseases is extremely positive. And then I think it will overlap into the psychedelic space, which also has a lot of great, we know, benefits, but the science curve is a slow curve. So you have to be very patient in psychedelics. It's not like, well, okay, now we're going to go drill, and did we hit or not hit? Okay, now we'll get another property. It's much more akin, like I say, to a science company that, slow and steady, and yes, there will be points of euphoria. But I think the best companies are yet to come out.
Cool.
Publicly.
Okay, interesting. So, see, good, hopeful teasers for that industry to come. But definitely agree with you. That's a space to be patient. I think there was some psychedelic companies that ran extremely far, but nice to see a small pullback there. Some good entry points, like you mentioned earlier. We were getting a lot of general questions for you, Sheldon, on kind of views on the venture market. You're saying a lot of good entry points. What's your feeling for Q2? Will this be a growth quarter? Lots of stimulus, like we're talking. Would you be looking at certain industries more than others? What's your take?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a growth quarter, if I could use that phrase. I mean, sometimes companies grow, but their stock prices don't. There's not always a direct correlation. But we're actively investing. We're not trying to time the market. We're just looking for great value. But I believe there's just so many great, opportunities in the disruptive tech space. If we found the right psychedelic space, that would interest us. Junior mining, there's a lot of great choices. It still hasn't come alive in the way that I think it can. So we are, being selective in our investments. But I believe with the stimulus, it's going to really drive gold and drive the whole, inflation potential trade here, which, is also helping. We're seeing Bitcoin within 5% of its high. So, that's a great sign for that whole space, which is now given more credence and credibility and widespread use of digital assets, blockchain currency, breeding into the NFT space, which we talked about just before we went on air here. Non-fungible tokens, I think, is going to be a huge asset class. It will be difficult for a lot of people to fully understand why, but that Christie's auction on that piece of art, Beeple,
69 million.
$69 million is, I don't know, to me as an art collector, a bit out there. But on the other hand, it's basically an NFT. You own that digital work. It's proprietary to you. And I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting other applications in the space that involve blockchain. And so this is a whole new area.
Yeah.
And
well, let's talk about it a little. Obviously,
it's a lot of people have invested yeah, and a lot of people have mostly associated with either speculation on buying Bitcoin or Ethereum, or say crypto mining. And the economics of crypto mining now, or Bitcoin mining and other digital assets, is extremely profitable.
Crazy.
So the supply space on the equipment is quite tight, but new entrants are still coming in. There's still secondhand equipment around that sort of is left over from the boom bust of the 17-18 craze. But that's, again, it's a whole new market. So there are many, many choices now to invest in the junior space that just were didn't exist before.
Yeah. Well, chatting about NFTs a little bit. Obviously, extremely hot topic. Getting searched almost just as much as Bitcoin, as crazy as the Google trends are. So, questions for you. Obviously, within the space, you've got really the leaders are the artwork side, and then the top shot moments, kind of playing card side. Hey, Dapper just raised a ton of money, signed kind of exclusive partnership with the UFC. They've been crushing it with the NBA. What's your view on both sides? I mean, on one side you've got the digital kind of trading cards, collectibles, with Dapper, and the other side, obviously you have all the artwork, from Beeple to CryptoPunks to all these other guys. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm acceptable of all things innovative, but caveat emptor, know what you're buying, because a lot of these artists most people have not heard of, let alone myself. Certainly an athlete people are aware of, certain icons. I think the idea that you own something that's unique has always been of value, but the non-physicality of it is an adjustment for the older generation, less so for the younger generation. But I believe it's part of the future. So I think we're just at the beginning. We're just at the beginning of a massive cycle that involves digital assets.
So you have people asking, how do you play the industry? How do you play the space? Is buy a bunch of Top Shot cards? Is it try and look for some of these really private companies, because the space is moving so fast? What's someone like yourself doing? But also, what advice would you give to someone, just a kind of the normal investor trying to play the space the best they can?
Well, I think very few people know what there is to play. It's a very inside market. This is not a transparent market, even though blockchain's transparent and decentralized and so forth. The companies, the ideas are not. I just watched on CNBC some group of guys, and they were all from different countries that were partnering in a shoe company, and they basically created these NFT shoes, and then you get real copies and so forth. It's a branding game. And, I guess everybody wants something that no one else has. One of the interesting ways that, at ThreeD, we backed into something is that, one of our key companies, which is now finally beginning to really happen, is in the whole area of augmented reality. And that was an area that people talked about for years and now is ready for prime time. Well, augmented reality works perfectly with NFTs. And so we have a partnership with a company called Liquid Avatar, created a private company called Oasis, just got the rights to John Lennon's Lost Weekend with Mao Peng. No one else has these photographs. We're creating NFTs and art around it. But what's happening now is the number of companies approaching Imagine AR to partner using augmented realities with NFTs is just blowing up. So now I've got something that I invested in an area that I really strongly believe in, augmented reality, that is really going to now be a play on a whole group of different types of NFTs. Now, I'm not saying that, that just so happens to be a vehicle where I may not have an opportunity to invest in the next NFT, but if they do a deal with Imagine AR, we have a platform, and that's very key. But it's hard because we just had a conversation a couple of days ago developing an NFT exchange. So they're going to start, and there are, I think, maybe one or two out there. We know very little about it. And, we pride ourselves in knowing a little bit about these things, but this is new for everybody. And I think it's going to be easy to get caught up in this, excitement, if you will. But to pinpoint how to invest in it is not easy. And I think, there could be, a lot of disasters because of overhyped things that, have the word NFT. So there are probably going to be EFTs, ETFs that, you know, show up that maybe allow people to say, okay, I can get exposure there. But it's you gotta dig and you gotta do your homework, because I would say every day there's probably 1,000 new ideas coming out of this space.
Yeah. Hard to keep on, on top of it. How fast it's moved. You just look at Google Trends over the past 3 months is crazy. New things every day. Really gives some big kind of throwbacks to 2017 crypto. Be careful. There will be winners, there'll be losers for sure. But Sheldon, I think this was a great video. Got some NFT stuff out of you too that I didn't expect. So thanks for joining. Anything else with the markets you wanted to touch on?
No, I just intuitively I feel pretty good that it's a good time to invest when things are quiet. I mean, everybody's emotional and people love to buy at the top because there's all the confirmation that they were right. But the problem is they missed that move. So it's a very good entry point for companies that you like. And so I feel I'm very positive right now. And without it, it just puts a spotlight on everything again. And I think we're going to have a good spring, good summer, good rest of the year, really, for the markets.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave it there. Hey, we'll have another update video here in a few weeks. But Sheldon, thanks so much for joining. This is an awesome video.
Great to see you.